Alrighty, everybody. What is going on, y'all? Welcome back to another stream. I'm looking for my little mic topper. I don't know where it fell. Anyways, but I hope everyone's doing well. Good to see y'all. So we have ourselves a bit of an update here for y'all on Erin. Erin is currently a Cat 2 still. Sustained winds of 110 miles an hour, moving north at 14 miles per hour. And the central low is down to 941 millibars. Anyways, folks, let's see what we got here today so far. We have Tabletop, we have Mark, we have Scott, of course, everybody else who is tuning in here now. It is good to see you guys. Hope everyone is doing well. What's up, K-Jack? Saying hi, Andrew Mods, and everyone. Good to see you. Yeah, good to see you too, my friend. I hope that you're doing good. But anyways, folks, so we have an update for you all. We got quite a few updates, actually. Excuse me. First of all, we do have ourselves a system here just north here of the Antilles that we're continuing to monitor here. This system does have a pretty decent shot at development here. In which right now, throughout the next 7 days or the next week, we do have an overall 70% chance of formation here. So this guy, we're going to have to monitor pretty closely. We'll get more to that here in a minute. We also do have an increase in probability on that other system, that 99L invest that we have, just southwest of the Cabo Verde. The system does have an overall 40% chance of now, developing into a tropical depression or a tropical storm here. So that is overall at a 40% chance probability here overall. So that is also increased. Now, on the forecast track from the Hurricane Center, we actually are expecting Erin to re-strengthen a little bit up into Category 3 realm here. According to the Hurricane Center here, as we approach tomorrow morning, we could be seeing a Category 3 here, sustained winds of 115 miles an hour, gusting up to right around 140 there. Which we do have a lot of coastal impacts expected here for areas like North Carolina. Let me go ahead and bring up the graphics here from the Hurricane Center, and we'll go ahead and show you guys what we got going on here. But all of those watches and everything like that have been turned into warnings, except for Bermuda. Bermuda, oh my goodness, I'm very bright. But Bermuda here, we still do got that tropical storm watch in effect here. We're going to have to continue monitoring here. The wind field has gotten pretty big, as you can see. Tropical storm warnings in effect across coastal Virginia, coastal North Carolina here. So this is kind of, the blue here. This is where we are expecting some tropical storm conditions to occur, which we're going to have to definitely look into. That means, tropical storm conditions is expected. Now, Bermuda, on the other hand, like I mentioned, we're under tropical storm watches. It means that tropical storm activity is possible in the near future. No imminent danger as of right now. If those do turn to warnings, then, that'll mean that tropical storm conditions is expected. But regardless, we're still going to see some rough seas out there and some, definitely some gusty winds going on. What's up, Scott? Good to see ya. Say hi, Andrew, everyone. What's up? Hope you're doing good. What's up? Let's see here. What's up, Calvin? Good to see ya. Let's see, Darielli, is that how you say your name? I'm really sorry. I am terrible with names. Hopefully you're doing good. Good to see ya. Hopefully you're doing well, my friend. I know I butchered that name, and I'm really sorry. I'm terrible with names, man. All right, so let's take a peek here at the SAT. This is current satellite imagery here from the Mesoscale floater that we do have here. You can see we're missing a few tiles, but system here is still doing its thing. We got a little bit of dry air up here towards the northern part of the storm here. We did have a little eye earlier, actually. Since then, the eye has actually been kind of obscured by a bit of cloud cover and everything like that, so the eye is not perfectly visible anymore at this current stage. But we do have a pretty good amount of convection still out there by the center of the storm here. Also to the south, some pretty heavy convection going on here too. Now pulling up the moisture, looking here at the water vapor scan here, you can see that it's actually pulling up a lot of moisture out there from the Caribbean, which eventually goes into like Central America. So if you look at it, if we do pull this up, so there's the center of the storm, like right in here. We do have a lot of that moisture kind of getting pulled up into the storm here. So moisture is, definitely not a concern right now. I mean, we do have a bit of dry air up there towards the northern part of the cell, or northern part of the storm, but it is definitely still pulling in a lot of moisture here from the Caribbean and which is coming from like Central America, which is definitely still kind of fueling that storm there overall. Let's see. What's up? Josh is saying hello. I'm glad I made it in time. Need to go to bed soon because I have school. That's fair. That's fair. Well, I'm glad that you're here, my friend. Good to see you. But yeah, looking at SAT once again. Moisture isn't really much of an issue here. In a little bit, the system's actually going to start really moving its way here to the northeast because, like we mentioned here earlier yesterday, that jet stream is going to really take this storm away. Let me actually bring you guys over to models here. So we can take a look at that here. So we're going to pull up the GFS. We're going to pull up the, let's see, the upper dynamics here. We're going to take a peek at, let's see here. I don't think GFS on this view has it. So let's go to the East US view. I think we might have wind shear. Nope, I guess not. Okay, we're just going to have to go to the full North Atlantic view. Then we pull up our wind shear. Here we go. So the system where it's at right now, you can see that we do have that clockwise upper level venting going on here, which is typical for these systems. But we do have a pretty, like I said, we do have ourselves a pretty big jet stream that's currently going over Canada and cross portions here of the northeastern U.S. Now, as Erin moves kind of northward, it's going to start to run into that jet stream, which is going to, move the system. It's going to steer the system further away from land, keeping it away from, the U.S. coast from making landfall or anything like that. If that jet wasn't there, say we had a ridge of high pressure that was, in place, that could have been a little bit more of a concern. But thankfully, we do have that jet stream that's in place, and that's going to really kind of carry the storm away here. So that is definitely pretty good. But like I mentioned, there's definitely going to be some impacts here for not only the United States out there by like Virginia, North Carolina, kind of getting some of the heaviest impacts, by the coastlines. But, a lot of the U.S. East Coast as well, we're seeing quite a bit of impacts here, with the big waves that we got going on out there. I mean, literally, here, let me show you guys this. The storm surge here is expected, let's see, let me bring this up here. I think, here we go. Yeah, the rip currents here is really affecting much of the U.S. East Coast in general. Taking a look here at the interactive map from the Hurricane Center here, you can see that we do have ourselves, high risks of rip currents, all across the eastern side of Florida, all of coastal Georgia, North and South Carolina, cutting its way up here into even like Delaware, coastal Maryland, up into New Jersey, Long Island. And then, of course, we do have kind of a moderate concern up here for areas like Connecticut and, or actually Rhode Island here and out there by Massachusetts here with the yellow. So, the effects are definitely felt pretty wide overall. Let's see. Are tropical storm winds expected in Bermuda? So it is possible. It is certainly possible. The Hurricane Center, as of right now, if we go ahead and bring up the cone, you can see the Hurricane Center. We do have that tropical storm watch that's in effect too. You can see in the yellow. So they have a watch right now. Doesn't mean that tropical storm conditions are imminent. It means they're possible. And that we need to continue monitoring it for possible warning upgrades. Now, we do have tropical storm warnings in place, like we've mentioned here from, it's actually a brand new cone here. You can see that has it pulling way up to the north here. But yeah, I mean, we have like areas like coastal North Carolina, a little bit of coastal Virginia there too in those tropical storm warnings. But Bermuda is in the watches still, so we're just still going to have to monitor it, and we'll see if that does get upgraded to a warning or whatnot. But let me actually bring you guys back over here to the models real quickly. I do want to go ahead and bring this up for you guys so we can kind of look a little bit more in depth here. So let's pull up the eastern U.S. view. Looking at the GFS model, we're going to take a peek here at the lower level winds. And if we work our way down in time, I mean, yeah, pretty soon we're going to start to see some of those tropical storm force winds, working their way up here towards eastern North Carolina. On the far eastern side here, North Carolina, you can see we do have a 35-knot wind barb here from a sounding here according to the GFS model. This is right around the 8 a.m. Tomorrow, in which we can see we definitely do have a little bit of tropical storm conditions out there. Now, Bermuda, on the other hand, pulling our way over here to the morning of the 22nd, you can see if we grab a little bit of a sounding here, we also do a 35-knot wind barb here. So that is, that is definitely going to, be near tropical storm force, if not tropical storm force. So, regardless, Bermuda, we're definitely going to get some pretty strong winds out of the system here, as well as some pretty big waves as well that we're going to need to look into. Let's see here. PayPal says, I hope it doesn't change up and go straight into land. It's not gonna. It's not gonna because, like we mentioned here a little bit ago, we do have some pretty strong. Here, let's hop over to Erin on the big picture here. But we do have ourselves. I thought I could look at the wind shear. I guess I can't. But anyways, what we do got going on here is that jet stream that we were talking about here. If we go ahead and pull up the wind shear, you can see that jet stream that's in place, going over currently going over the northeast U.S. That's gonna, kind of catch the system and steer it away from the U.S. That's currently, already in place out there. So, thankfully, it'll be kind of being away from those areas of land, from a direct landfall, which is good. But yeah, at this point in time, we're not going to see a landfall with this system. Now, in terms of the track, once again, this is from the Hurricane Center here that we have. You can see that, we're pretty tight. The cone is pretty tight because we do have a pretty good agreement, in terms of where the storm is going to end up going here. It's just going to continue to work its way further here to the northeast. Now, like I mentioned, though, the Hurricane Center, we do actually have major hurricane expectancy here. The system is actually expected to, to turn into a Category 3 again, briefly before being downgraded here by pretty much the morning of the 22nd, according to the latest cone here, as you can currently see. So, we'll definitely have to look out there for that. It's still going to remain a hurricane for, quite a few days here. It looks like it's going to be downgraded to a tropical storm here, probably sometime here for the afternoon, maybe the morning of the 23rd, as it really starts to kind of get into those colder waters here. But, like I mentioned, right now, coming up here throughout tonight, that's where the heaviest effects are going to be felt in the United States, because it's going to be at its closest point to the U.S. coast. We'll be here for tonight going into tomorrow morning here overall. What's up, SPC? Good to see ya. Let's see. What about the invests heading towards the Bermuda area? Yeah, so they actually increased the probability of the system. We now have an overall 70% chance of either a tropical depression or a tropical storm developing here throughout the next 7 days. So, there is a good possibility we could get a short-lived depression out of the system here. And whenever it comes to the next 48 hours, low 10%, not expecting much throughout the next few days. But, overall, throughout the next week or so, it does look like a good possibility. Now, we also have another system like we were talking about here yesterday. Here, we'll go ahead and bring up the satellite imagery here. We'll go ahead and do the infrared view, and we'll pull up the MDR, or the main development region here, so we can look at everything. But yeah, we do got ourselves a bit of a blob going on right now. This system does have a shot at becoming a depression or possible tropical storm here. It's very disorganized still. You can see it's very disorganized. We do have a little bit of circulation going on there. It's not fully developed yet, but overall, as of right now, throughout the next 7 days, we got a 40% chance of development here, in which we're going to have to keep an eye out there for. This system has been given the name 99L. It is an invest. Now, honestly, here's the hurricane models here. Probably not going to see a whole lot out of this system. It actually remains fairly low, as you can kind of tell here. Majority of the spaghetti models just has this thing continually working its way to the west here, remaining pretty far, south here overall. In which, we're not going to really see a whole lot of craziness out of it. Now, with the spaghetti models here, in terms of the intensity guidance, you can see here that most of the models don't suggest this thing getting in the tropical storm force. At most, maybe just a depression possibly developing. But, we have the one model here, the ship model, that has it kind of, gradually strengthening, but that's like the only model that really presents that. Majority of other models you can see just has the system remaining under tropical storm criteria. So, yeah, the odds of the system, becoming a tropical storm is not very high. But like I mentioned, a short-lived depression could certainly be a possibility here with the system. Not really too worried about this guy, to be honest with you, but we'll definitely keep an eye on it. Now, in terms of the other system, we have a bunch of convection popping off here. This is that other one here, this other disturbance that we're monitoring here. Right now it's just kind of a bunch of disorganized showers and storms and, just not really doing a whole lot. But as this area does work its way into this region, this is where we could see maybe some gradual development here overall. This has not been given a invest yet. Believe it or not, the lower probability storm actually has an invest before the higher probability storm here. This one's in a little bit better of shape here is why. As you can see, this one's just literally a bunch of scattered storms here. But this one's actually fairly, I wouldn't say organized, but it's a lot better. And it's a lot in better shape here, essentially. We do have circulation going on with it, as well as, decent amount of convection. This one's more advanced, a little bit more, progress, than this system over here. But this eventually will likely become an invest, which I think will bring us back to 90L, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll have to see what happens with that. But I mean, yeah, probability is actually pretty decent here. Once again, 70% chance probability, of development here. So we'll definitely just be monitoring that. Now let's go ahead and hop our way over here to the models. We're going to take a peek here at the models once again. Overall. For these next couple of systems here, as well as Erin. So this is the GFS. This is the latest 18 UTC run that we have. This is the newest model that we have overall. So in regarding to Erin, Erin's just going to continue working its way over here to the north here. Some of the heaviest impacts are going to be felt tonight throughout portions of North Carolina and Virginia. Once again, we do have those tropical storm warnings in place here. We'll get more into that here in a minute as well. But yeah, as we work our way down in time here, that one area that we're monitoring, according to GFS, does pick up a little bit of traction here. I mean, potentially could develop into something. This actually has the system going right over Bermuda. I don't know if you guys can tell. But according to GFS, I mean, this is a fairly small, a very compact system, especially when comparing to Erin here. Erin's a massive storm. Erin's huge. I mean, you could see maybe a short-lived tropical storm or hurricane from the GFS, but remember, that's one model run. So, don't take that too seriously. But, Bermuda should monitor it. We'll have to keep an eye out there for that. Now, in terms of the Euro, the ECMWF here, looking at the Euro, honestly, Euro doesn't have a whole lot of craziness with that. It actually has the system mostly just east of Bermuda, and nothing more than just possibly a tropical depression. And in terms of the other the other wave that we have here, working westward, it's just going to kind of fizzle out. So like I mentioned, we're not expecting much on this guy over here, this wave off the west coast of Africa. Maybe a short-lived depression, but it's currently posing no concern for anybody. And then, of course, like we mentioned, this storm here, could have some possible gradual development. It is possible. But yeah, we'll definitely be monitoring here. Yeah, CMC doesn't really have much of anything happening with that system. So, overall, the impacts are pretty low at the current moment. But yeah, I mean, Bermuda should monitor it. We'll keep an eye on it. It could be something. It could be nothing. It's a little early to tell, given that the models are still a little bit iffy. Let's see here. Elliot says, my fiance has family over in, I have no idea how you pronounce that. They are expecting some high water there tomorrow. Where is that? Like North Carolina? Here, let me pop that up here. Maybe I can see where that's at. Yeah, I can't. I don't even know where to begin to pronounce that area. Holy cow. Oh, okay. Okay, so this is actually part of Virginia. Gotcha. Well, I mean, yeah, we do have ourselves some storm surge out there. About 1 to 3 foot of surge is possible or expected out there. So, definitely going to be seeing, a lot of coastal impacts, not just for them, but for, a lot of people, across the far eastern tip of North Carolina here, basically from Beaufort all the way up here towards, like, Southern Shores area. We do have this surge in which we could be seeing, a good 2 to 4 foot definitely could be seeing some pretty good surges out there. So that is, definitely something that we're going to need to look out there for. Is 2 to 4 foot of surges can definitely be pretty impactful. Now, actually, speaking of surges, let me actually go ahead and bring those up here for you guys from the Hurricane Center's page here. So they've actually extended, excuse me, they actually extended the surges up a little bit to the north here. You can see as far down south as northern South Carolina, which does go through North Carolina here. The 2 to 4 foot here between Duck and Cape Lookout, and then once again 1 to 3 foot for portions of the Chesapeake Bay. As well as going all the way up here now, all the way towards Sandy Hook, right there kind of near, western Long Island there. So New Jersey is, now in that storm surge risk here with 1 to 3 foot being possible. So, but yeah, up to 4 foot, 2 to 4 foot up here across the yellow. That's where the greatest surges are going to definitely be felt, in which we definitely do need to look out for. Let's see here. Chincoteague? Is that how you say that? That is, yeah, that's an interesting one. So you're good. I appreciate it. Well, thank you for trying to pronounce it for me. I don't even know if I said that right, which I probably didn't, but I appreciate it. But yeah, so another thing we're going to look at here is the rainfall. I mean, we're really not going to see much rainfall out of this system here, over North Carolina or Virginia. This is just more of a windy system, a little bit more of a bit of a wavy system, a bit of waves and, a bit of, winds and stuff like that. So that's that. But yeah, I mean, you can see a lot of the water is just going to remain out in the ocean, which, that's not going to be really much of an issue out there. We do have a good 8 to 12 inches, though, and some of the heaviest of the streaks you can see, even a little bit of like 12 to 16 inches possible from the WPC here. So, a lot of water offshore, but, inland, yeah, we're not going to really see much of anything with that. So that's good. But like I mentioned, though, the winds and stuff like that, that's where the effects are definitely going to be felt, is across, like, North Carolina, portions of Virginia, in which, we're definitely going to have to look out there for. Let's see here. I did get it. Well, that's surprising. That's pretty surprising. What's up, Thomas? Good to see you. Calvin says Hurricane Erin is as big as Hurricane Ike back in 2008. Is it? I know it's a really big system. Definitely quite large. Yeah, right at this point in time, I mean, it's pretty good sized. Absolutely. Here, let me see. Do they have mesofloaters on this site? Oh, let's see. Here we go. Mesoscale 2? No, Mesoscale 1 we're going to have to use. There you go. So here's a mesofloater of it. So the mesofloater is really nice because they give you more images per time. Essentially, an image every minute instead of an image every 10 minutes here. We do have a lot more higher resolution views with the mesofloaters. But yeah, I mean, you can see it right now. It's not the most healthy looking hurricane, but it's definitely still pretty strong. We have a bit of dry air up here in that northern side here. A little bit of dry air going on. Excuse me. Earlier this morning, like I mentioned, we did have a visible eye there, in the center of the storm here. That has since kind of diminished here. But, the Hurricane Center, like we mentioned here, actually has the system strengthening briefly back into Category 3. It does seem like a good possibility. Right now you guys can see in the top left, that's the current, the current conditions of the storm here. Right now, Category 2, sustained winds of 110. Pressure has dropped back down quite a bit, down to now 941 millibars. And, we are moving north at 14 miles per hour. So, definitely, is picking up some strength, given that the pressure is dropping again. The system has used a lot of its energy to grow in size rather than overall strength. So, the system's quite a beast. It really is. But anyways, but yeah, so, the mesofloater, though, I mean, really can pull out some of that fine detail. We still do have some pretty good convection going on, especially on the south side of the storm here. We have a lot of heavy convection going on here as well. But still got a little bit of dry air up here in that northern part. But looking at the conditions out here, I mean, across the coast here, you can see the winds. They've been picking up a little bit. Nothing super crazy. I mean, we do have, let's see here, some winds up to right around 20 miles an hour or so in some spots. Winds are not anything super significant right now. But tonight, Those winds are definitely going to be picking up quite a bit. We might do some coverage tonight, actually. We'll have to see what happens. But yeah, so like I said, the storm is going to have its closest approach here, to North Carolina here for later on tonight. So, definitely need you guys to be careful out there and watch it. I mean, the waves out there are already pretty bad. It's already definitely picking up quite a bit. Anyways, but yeah, let's hop over here into the models, y'all. We're going to hop back over here to the, actually, we're going to take a peek at the HWRF. We have not looked at it yet. Excuse me. How did Hurricane Erin get so large? Its availability to water vapor, tons of moisture in the atmosphere has really allowed it to get quite large. Having a lot of moisture available for the system has really kind of grown the storm to be quite a beast. And also in association with those super warm sea surface temperatures out there and lack of wind shear has really allowed the system to get quite big overall. Excuse me, sorry about that, y'all. But anyways, yeah, let's take a peek at the models. So this is the HWRF parent model. So yeah, the HWRF actually has a system picking up some strength as we kind of approach our way over here to our closest point tomorrow morning up across eastern North Carolina here. HWRF suggests potentially, that pressure getting back down into maybe the upper 920s, lower 930s as it continues working its way to the north. But yeah, I mean, you can see out there, some of those winds here. Can't grab a sounding, but some of those wind barbs out there along eastern North Carolina's coast is between like 35 to 40 or so knots sustained here. That's going to be overnight tonight going into tomorrow morning. So definitely some pretty strong winds at this point. Now for Bermuda, you can see that, Bermuda, we do have a brief window here for pretty much the late 21st going into the 22nd is when those strongest conditions are going to be out there by Bermuda, in which, we actually could be seeing, near tropical storm force conditions out there, which, the Hurricane Center, we do have those tropical storm watches in effect here, saying, hey, tropical storm conditions are possible. We're going to have to monitor it. And let me go ahead and show you guys this right now. So this is actually on the Hurricane Center's page. You can see that yellow there that's over Bermuda. Those are those tropical storm watches. Excuse me. But yeah, so that's that. That's what we're looking at there. I mean, also, once again across eastern North Carolina as well as eastern Virginia, we do have those tropical storm warnings in effect there, saying, hey, we are expecting tropical storm conditions to occur, in which those winds, they're offshore right now, but they'll be working their way inland here pretty soon. Once again, over tonight into tomorrow morning, we're going to really feel some of those tropical storm force winds here. So we'll definitely have to look out there for that. Absolutely. But anyways. So that's that. Hold on one second, y'all. Have to do something real quick. But yeah, so like I mentioned, though, we do have those tropical storm warnings in effect here. Where'd my camera go? Tropical storm warnings in effect here for until further notice, basically. Let's see here. What's up, Ashes? Good to see you, my friend. Hopefully you're doing well. Good to see you. But yeah, so that's that, y'all. Once again, hopping back over the surges here for the people who's just joining. We do got some surges expected here as we do have ourselves, that now stretching all the way up here into New Jersey. You can see all the way from pretty much as far west or as far north as western Long Island here, cutting through New Jersey's coast here into coastal Delaware, coastal Maryland, coastal Virginia, leading down into coastal Virginia. All the way down here towards North Carolina here as well, so, and even South Carolina. So surges are, definitely going to be one of the main concerns here. And, as you can see, I mean, that does definitely spread out over a pretty far distance here. So the blue areas here represent, 1 to 3 foot storm surge out here, 1 to 3 foot of water coming inland, flooding inland here essentially. And then, of course, we do have that 2 to 4 foot margin up here in the yellow here, which includes the waters from Duck, North Carolina, all the way down the Cape Lookout here, in which we do have 2 to 4 foot surges out here overall. So definitely is going to be a bit of a concern here. Now, in terms of the probabilities, you can see that the map's pretty large here at this point in time. The the Hurricane Center has those tropical storm force probabilities actually still fairly low. Eastern North Carolina is at 20 to 30%. But remember, we are expecting tropical storm conditions, due to the warnings that are in place out there. A lot of that's mostly going to be from those waters, mostly from the surges and stuff like that. It's going to really allow for that to occur. But once again, the winds, too, they're definitely going to be picking up quite a bit here. But anyways, so that's that. But yeah, let's hop our way over here back to the models here, y'all. We're going to take a peek back over here at these. But, in terms of the HWRF, though, a lot of it's, could pick up a little bit of strength here according to this model here between now and tomorrow morning here, which, once again, Hurricane Center, we do have the system briefly coming back into Category 3 for at least another... at least another little bit here, at least another 12 hours or so before getting back downgraded to a Cat 2. So a brief window of Cat 3 is on the forecast track, so we'll have to look out there for that. See, Ashes says you saw a dumpster float today, and what? You saw a dumpster floating? That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I've seen some videos come through. It's actually pretty bad out there. Absolutely. Goodness. Ashes, are you out in Outer Banks right now? If you are, be careful. Yeah, Outer Banks is one of the areas that's expected to get some pretty good impacts out there. That's for sure. But like I mentioned, right now the winds are still fairly, I wouldn't say calm, but they're, definitely not near tropical storm force yet. You can see we do have ourselves, a good... 15 mile an hour, upwards of 20 miles an hour winds going on out here, which, as the night progresses, as, the night goes on and we reach morning, those winds are indeed going to increase, once again, as we do have those tropical storm force winds expected to roll inland here. But yeah, so that's what we need to look out for on top of, the surges and, of course, the rip currents that we really do have in effect here. But yeah, let me actually bring this up for you guys once again. So looking at the... let's see here. What is it? The rip currents here. Once again, in terms of the rip current concern, you can see that much of the U.S. East Coast here is in high risk of rip current. So basically, what a rip current is it's a strong current of water. Say you're on the beach and you go out in the water. It's a strong current that pulls back out to the ocean, which is very strong, and it can easily knock you further away from the coast. And even some of the best swimmers can have a hard time, if not impossibly, get back to the coast if they swim directly towards the coastline here. So if you're caught in a rip current, swim parallel to the shore. Don't swim directly back at the shore because, those currents are still going to be pulling you back and you're going to use up a lot of your energy. So, if you're caught in a rip current, swim parallel to shore. But better yet, just don't go in the water yet, until this rip current risk goes down. Because, you can see here, the U.S. East Coast here is in a very high risk here of rip currents here. All the way down from, southern Florida, all the way up here throughout pretty much... near Rhode Island here. We do have the moderate risk up here also for areas like Rhode Island, coast and Massachusetts and even up there towards like Maine here. So definitely is, a pretty big concern here for rip currents, not just across, a small area, but across, pretty much most of the U.S. East Coast here, definitely is a pretty big concern here. So got to look out there for that. Now, in terms of tomorrow's, too, this continues tomorrow as well. You can see that tomorrow's rip current still all the way from southern Florida, cutting through Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, up here into also, Delaware's coast, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Long Island here, and, Massachusetts overall, which we do have that high risk. And, of course, even the moderate that goes through some of these other areas in the far northeast U.S. here. So, regardless, like I mentioned, just avoid going in the waters for the next few days because it's going to be pretty rough out there, and you don't want to get caught in those rip currents here. So here is the track. This is the previous past track here of the tropical storm and hurricane force winds here. You can see the yellow. This is where the tropical storm force winds were felt, estimated to be. So those yellow areas that you see, this is where the tropical storm force wind field is or was. And of course, the red here indicates that hurricane force wind field. You can just see from once the system started how skinny that wind field was to absolutely how massive it is now. Now the current, the current wind field right now is right here. In which you can actually see that, those tropical storm force winds are still just off the coast of, North Carolina here. But, as the system pulls up north, picks up a little bit more strength, it could get a little bit bigger as well. And we are going to see some of that tropical storm force conditions, expected for portions along the coast of North Carolina here, as well as, like I said, as well as Virginia here overall. So that's that. That is what we're looking out there for. Once again, Bermuda, we got those tropical storm watches in effect here. So some potential tropical storm conditions. We're gonna have to monitor that for possible warnings. But as of right now, we are in just in those tropical storm watches here overall. So that is that. So that's currently what we are seeing here. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. Let's see here. But anyways, so that's that. We're gonna hop y'all back over here to the models. We're gonna take a peek here at the future models here once again. I'm actually gonna bring those over here to you guys. So taking a look here at the HWRF model or the HWRF. Actually, we're gonna go back to the parent here, to the parent model. So looking at the HWRF here, gonna move things over a little bit so you guys can see it a little bit better. But yeah, according to this model, we are going to see possibly maybe a little bit of strengthening here. This is the 18 UTC run here, showing a little bit of strengthening possible with this system here as we continue pulling to the north here. Once again, tropical storm conditions, along coastal North Carolina, at least parts of coastal North Carolina is expected here. As well as areas out there by like coastal Virginia. We are expecting tropical storm conditions to absolutely occur. And farther down in time, the model does suggest, possibly near tropical storm force conditions out there by Bermuda. So that's something we're going to have to look out there for. Confidence is, not super high right now for Bermuda in terms of tropical storm force winds, but we do have that tropical storm watch in effect, just in case. So just monitor that if, warning does need to be that great English changer. if the Hurricane Center needs to issue warnings instead of watches, just be alert for that. But anyways, yeah. So, watches in effect for Bermuda, warnings in effect for coastal North Carolina and Virginia here. But yeah, HWRF, once again, keeps this thing, just away from making direct landfall. Once again, because we do have that, that strong upper level current here, that strong jet stream really shooting across the U.S. Northeast coast here, or just over the Northeast in general, which is, carrying the system. That's not the track, obviously, which is going to carry the system here a lot further away from the U.S., which is good. Let's see here. Deborah says, hi, Andrew. Any tornado threats with the storm? No, there is actually no tornado threat here. Because in tropical systems, the tornado threat is on the right-hand side of the system. So given that the the left-hand side is what's affecting the coast, the right-hand side, this is the tornadic side. This is not going to be over anywhere in the U.S. If the system made landfall, then yes, there would be, but since it's not, and since it's remaining offshore, the right side of the storm is never going to touch land, meaning that there is not going to be a tornado threat. Now, of course, for the fishies out there, there might be a bit of a tornado threat, just given that it's off the coast, or more of a waterspout threat, just given that it's off the coast here. That right-hand side is going to be completely offshore, which, no tornado threat, thankfully. Let's see, how is Central Maryland going to be? You guys are going to be fine. Yeah, this is mostly a coastal concern for a lot of us out here. The effects are not really too far inland here. You can see some of the, I wouldn't say strong winds because they're really not. You can see some of the winds, possibly work their way inland towards the mid-Atlantic northeast here, but this is only like 10 knots, which is like 15 miles an hour max. Not really anything big. But yeah, for Maryland out there, Central Maryland, yeah, you guys are going to be fine. This is more of like I said, a coastal concern for us out here, with the with the waves and, of course, the winds and stuff like that. This is mostly just going to be a coastal concern. So, but yeah, you'll be fine. You'll be fine out there. Oh, let's see here. But yeah, once again, Deborah, the tornado threat here is going to be on the right-hand side of the storm, which, keeps it away from the U.S. So there's currently no threat for tornadic activity here on this system here. So that's good. At least it's one less thing we got to worry about. That is certainly good news. But anyways, yeah, so this is the current wind field, y'all. Once again, if y'all are just tuning in here, first of all, welcome. It's good to see ya. But yeah, this is currently what the storm's wind field looks like now. So the yellow here indicates where the estimated tropical storm force winds are located. And of course, the red is where the estimated hurricane force winds are located. You can see that the hurricane force winds are well offshore. Same thing with the tropical storm conditions. Covering a lot of area, though. I mean, you can see it's a pretty big wind field. But, as the system continues pulling to the north here, it's going to get a little bit closer out there by, North Carolina's coast, as well as, Virginia's coast out here, in which, is going to, bring some tropical storm conditions, for those areas here. In which, we're definitely going to be looking out there for. And that's going to be happening tonight. So remember, tonight going into tomorrow morning, make sure that you guys are, just staying safe out there. Just keeping an eye on it. At least it's not a hurricane, which is definitely good. It could be a whole lot worse, but thankfully the hurricane activity is going to remain well offshore. So, things will be, fairly okay, in terms of winds anyways. I mean, it's going to get a little windy out there. Tropical storm force winds is expected for some of those regions, but definitely no hurricane force winds, which is good. But, regardless of the regardless of those tropical storm force winds that we have, those waves are going to be pretty rough out there. Once again, we are going to be seeing some pretty big waves out there, as well as some pretty big, surges in some spots of, 2 to 4 foot, above sea level in some areas up here in eastern North Carolina, out there between Duck and Cape Lookout here. 2 to 4 foot above sea level is expected. So we are going to definitely see a bit of coastal flooding out there. Let's see here. Yep, that's always good. Yeah, definitely don't want no tornado threat. That's for sure. Absolutely. Let's see here. So, in terms of the storm surges, we do have some storm surge warnings in effect here. You can see for portions of eastern North Carolina here. Once again, it extends down from. So this is from the Cape Lookout area, like we mentioned, all the way up toward Duck, which is very interesting. But yeah, a lot of the far eastern sides of North Carolina, we do have those storm surge warnings in effect. That's where the heaviest coastal impacts are going to be felt out there. Once again, from Duck to Cape Lookout here, that 2 to 4 foot storm surge expectancy. The 1 to 3 foot goes all the way down as far to the south here as northern South Carolina here, and shoots all the way up here towards coastal New Jersey here overall. So definitely quite a large area here. Where the storm surges are going to be felt. I mean, once again, this is a pretty big system here. The system is quite massive. Overall, but yeah, you can really see that on the wind field once again. The yellow here, the tropical storm force winds, the red, the hurricane force winds. So that's, the system is definitely pretty large here overall. But anyways, yeah, hopping back over to models, we're going to take a peek back over here at the models again. So let's go ahead and do such now. So we looked at the HWRF model. Once again, a little bit of strengthening is possible. Once again, the Hurricane Center, they do have the system becoming a Category 3 here, temporarily again for, maybe a good 12 hours or so before, once again getting downgraded a little bit weaker here overall. But like I mentioned, though, regardless, hurricane conditions are going to remain offshore, which is good. But still, big waves, a little bit of gusty winds out there by like coastal North Carolina, a little bit of coastal Virginia. That's the main concern here. And once again, the waves are going to be pretty big. Not just for the U.S. coast, but also for like Bermuda here as well. Those waves are going to be quite large. Let's see here. How far in the Delaware Bay is that storm surge? Well, let me bring up the map here again so you can actually see it here. So the surges, you can see, for the map here. Once again, this is 1 to 3 foot. So out there by the Delaware Bay here, you can kind of see this covers just a little bit. It doesn't go for the far extent here. Unlike the Chesapeake, you can see it goes up a good halfway up into the Chesapeake Bay here, go to 1 to 3 foot of storm surge. A lot of this is kind of for the entrance here, of the Delaware Bay. But yeah, you can see it doesn't go the full length here. It's just mostly for a little bit of the front end here. That's what the Hurricane Center does have peak surges out there for. But yeah, you can see for the Chesapeake Bay, it goes up a good halfway up into the bay here. So, that's 1 to 3 foot with a storm surge being possible. Let's see here. Deborah says, I'm in Dover, Delaware now, no longer in Georgia. Gotcha. How is central New Jersey looking like for the winds? So winds are going to be not really anything crazy out there in New Jersey. Coastal New Jersey, they might get some gusty winds along the coastline, but, central New Jersey, I can't grab a sounding here, but central New Jersey is going to be pretty weak. Isn't going to be anything significant. I mean, it might get a little breezy, it's typical, but it ain't going to be nothing big. Absolutely not. Once again, the effects, they're mostly going to be coastal. A lot of the effects are going to be mostly felt on the coastlines here. Mostly of Virginia and North Carolina. That's where the main areas of coastal effects are going to be felt for the most part here. Let's take a peek at another model here. So we looked at the HWRF here. Let's pull the HAFSA. The HAFSA model, not showing a whole lot of differences. I mean, at this point in time, the models are fairly locked in. Given that, we have a lot of good agreement now, given that, we're in pretty short frame of time at this point, from potential impacts here across Virginia, North Carolina, so we have a lot of good guidance here overall, but the wind fields, according to this model, is actually expected to get a little bit bigger here. But once it kind of works its way into those strong upper-level winds here, it's going to really start to weaken, as well as it's going to really start to lose a lot of its moisture here. Once that upper-level air really starts getting to the storm here, you can see that a lot of dry air is going to start to get infiltrated, deep into the system here, which is going to allow for it also to kind of dry out and weaken fairly quickly. Not just from the strong winds, but also from, the super dry air that the system is eventually going to kind of pull. But the dry air really start getting to it according to the models here right around the 22nd. So it'll really start to weaken, once we get up here. Not to mention, those sea surface temperatures out here start to get a little bit chilly, Sea surface temperatures definitely do get pretty cold, once we kind of work our way down in time here. It eventually will work its way into super cold waters here. But, right now it's still in some fairly warm waters. Right now we're still at a good, 28, 29 degrees Celsius waters. But, as it continues tracking north, it's only going to get in the cooler and cooler waters here overall. What's up, Cole? Good to see you. Saying what's up, Andrew. What's up, chat? Not much, man. Just tracking the weather like usual. Just, I'm ready for Erin to be over with. I ain't gonna lie. It feels like we've been tracking this storm for like 4 weeks. Feels like we've been tracking this thing forever, dude. I mean, we really started talking about it before it even really did anything, so. Let's see, just joined the stream. Have I talked about the sea surface temperatures behind Erin's path? Did she churn up some cold temps? Actually, I was getting ready to get into that. We did not look at it yet, but we will do that now. So pulling up the West Atlantic here. This is as of the 12 UTC of today, the 20th here. So this was, earlier this morning here. You can see that the waters have apparently cooled down a little bit. Yes, where the storm was, good, maybe 28, 29 Celsius overall. Where the storm is now is, kind of in these waters here. Still a good 29, 30 degrees Celsius. So, I mean, yeah, it has caused a little bit of upwelling. It definitely has caused a bit of cooler sea surface temperatures to, take place. But, but over time, that'll fill back in. Just give it a little bit of time, and it will. Let's see. Deborah says, anything new on that next system? So, yeah, we actually talked about this a minute ago. You probably weren't here, but that's fine. So, like I mentioned, with this system here, we actually have 2 other areas we're monitoring here. This guy over here, let me go ahead and bring up the satellite imagery here. We'll go ahead and do the MDR here, the main development region. So let's pull that up here now. But yeah, the main development region here, if we load this, which give it a second, you can see the system here is not really much more than just a bunch of scattered showers and storms here. Not really a whole lot of anything right now. Just a bunch of scattered storms popping through. Over time, though, throughout the next week, I mean, we have a 70% chance of this thing becoming, at least a depression or possible tropical storm here. So that is possible. Overall 70% chance in the next 7 days. 48 hours, only a 10% chance, which is pretty unlikely. Now, in terms of this guy, the one that's well off the west coast of Africa here, this one has a little bit lower of a probability, but it's in better shape here. You can see right now we do have a lot of convection, still relatively disorganized. We do got some counterclockwise circulation going on here. So, it's trying, but overall, throughout the next 7 days, we do have a 40% chance of the system becoming at least a depression or a possible storm. And throughout the next 48 hours, we've also have a 40% chance. Now, the model suggests more of a depression out of this than a storm. I don't think it's going to get the tropical storm status. I don't think so. System on the forecast track is expected to remain fairly low. It's expected to, just continue moving west fairly low. Eventually rolling into less conducive waters here for development, and that's going to allow for the system to really not do a whole lot overall. So this system, if it's going to do anything, it's got to do it soon, or else it's not going to really have a whole lot longer. But anyways, but yeah, so that's that 40% chance for this one. But yeah, I mean, this guy over here, this is the one that we should probably monitor the most here. Even then, the guidance is still all over the place here. It's still very wonky right now. Looking back over here at the models with you guys here on that system. So there's Erin. Here's that other future system. Here's the GFS. Now the GFS does show maybe some development occurring here. Maybe a relatively compact system here, according to the latest run of GFS. Maybe a tropical storm, maybe a low-end hurricane. We'll have to see what happens with it. But this is really the only model that supports it, though. That's what's important to notice, is that this is really the only model, the main model that shows it. Euro, on the other hand, the ECMWF here, doesn't really have much more than a possible depression out of the system. Not really doing a whole lot out there. And then, of course, we do have ourselves the CMC model here, in which the CMC here doesn't really pick up much with this system here, as you can tell. It's mostly GFS that wants this thing to be a lot further than the other models. And then lastly, we do got the icon here, the extended range of icon, in which icon does suggest maybe depression developing, but not really a whole lot of much going on there. So yeah, main global models here don't really support a whole lot out of it, except for the GFS. But you got to remember, the GFS is the GFS, and the GFS is a pretty interesting model sometimes. It does tend to sometimes go for the worst case scenario, I've noticed. Let's see, is the Saharan dust layer still influencing these storms at all? Well, I haven't looked at the Saharan dust here. I don't have any models up right now to look at it. An old program I used to use did have it, but I actually uninstalled it, so I can't really look at that. I have to find a new way to look at the Saharan dust, but regardless, what's expected is that these systems are not really, at least the one that's rolling off the west coast of Africa does not really have much of a high chance of doing much here. I mean, looking at the moisture levels, anyways. It does look like the system will be kind of rolling into some drier air. There's the system there, just off the west coast of Africa, southwest of the Cabo Verde. We work our way, progress our way further down in time. You can see its moisture kind of runs out there. Grabbing soundings, you can see that we start to get a bit of spacing between our dew points and our temperature, on a SKU-T chart here, throughout the atmosphere. The kind of the point where we're at now, we do have a relatively saturated atmosphere. The dew points and temperature lines are touching, given high moisture content, high humidity, in which, at this point we do have ourselves enough moisture and, enough room for convection. But, in the future, in the future here, it's expected to roll into some drier air, which is just going to likely kind of kill out that storm, though. So we'll have to see what happens, y'all. We'll definitely just need to monitor it. And then once again, with Erin here, I mean, Erin's definitely a pretty close call, given how close it is to the U.S. here. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, I mean, Erin here, the system is eventually going to really start pulling in some dry air here once we work our way into the early part of the 22nd, the late part of the 21st here overall. So, anyways. What's up, Overbuilt? Good to see ya. Did not see you until now that you're streaming weather. Well, now you have. Good to see ya. Yeah, YouTube YouTube kind of sucks at notifying people, unfortunately. So make sure you have those notifications set to all, y'all, if you want to get those. If you want to get notified. But anyways, if you guys have any questions, y'all let me know. I will be more than happy to answer them for y'all. But yeah, let's hop back to the current U.S. concerns here. I do want to take a peek at those here real quick. So yeah, let's go ahead and take a peek here back at those areas here once again. So hopping back to storm surge here once again, looking at the effects of storm surge once again. The risk now extends all the way up here into coastal. Coastal New Jersey out there just to the west of Long Island here. So we go all the way from pretty much the northern coast of New Jersey all the way down throughout coastal Delaware, coastal Maryland, coastal Virginia, coastal North Carolina, and into northern coastal South Carolina. So you can see the surges are affecting a pretty large area here. The blue indicating that 1 to 3 foot margin, where 1 to 3 foot of storm surge, pushing inland is expected. And of course, we do have that 2 to 4 foot margin here from Duck to the Cape Lookout here overall. So, definitely is a little bit greater out for these regions here overall. So the surges are going to be a little bit greater for some of those far eastern beaches out there in North Carolina here. So there's that. Let's see here. Miss says how far away? Well, the system will be doing most of its impacts here tonight into tomorrow morning here. It'll be at its closest point here tonight into tomorrow morning as the system continues pulling to the north, kind of change into the northeast here because, we're going to start feeling the effects of that jet stream that we have, which is going to kind of pull the system eventually further away from the U.S. coast here. But the system's really not super far off the coast here. Right now, looking at it, you can see that it's pretty close, and especially once we work our way later into tonight, we're gonna get a little bit closer out there. Deborah says any southern storms, like severe weather or anything? I don't think we got anything. I don't think we have anything really severe weather going on here right now, or nothing big, anyways. Today we do got 2 little marginals, nothing big. Tomorrow, just a marginal up north here. Day 3, just another marginal. Yeah, threats pretty low for severe weather and storms, but yeah, just typical thunderstorm typical summertime thunderstorms for a lot of the South today. Nothing out of the ordinary, really. Sad says, would it be safe going to the beach tomorrow? Going to Ormond Dog Beach in Florida. If it's on the west coast, then you should be fine. It's the east coast of Florida that's still going to be affected. Let me pull this up here. Let me pull this up. Here, I'll be able to tell if this is it, or if this is good or not. Why is it not letting me pull it up? So it's Ormond Beach. Ormond Beach here, Florida. Here we go. Okay. All right. So yeah, Ormond Beach is actually up here in the kind of eastern side. So I would not recommend it personally. I hate to tell you. Beach day will probably have to wait. You could go to the beach, just don't go in the water. Just stay away from the water, because the waters are still going to be very rough. There's still going to be some big ocean or big waves out there in the ocean, in which there is still going to be that big rip current risk here. Because even tomorrow we do have that high risk of rip currents out there, which don't go in the water. Because it could still pull you back out to sea. So just don't go in the water. If you do go to the beach, don't get in the water at all. Just stand on the beach and watch the ocean. That's all you could do. I would not recommend at all stepping foot in the beach or stepping foot on the water. What is the threat to Darlington, South Carolina? Let me look here. Darlington, South. Here we go. Darlington, South Carolina. Okay. Yeah, the effects, given that this is not really a coastal area, are going to be pretty minimal. The threat is mostly for the coastal areas here. So you're going to have no impacts, hardly any. You might have a slight breeze, but yeah, we're not going to see any big impacts out here. So, let's see here. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, no problem. You're very welcome. Glad to help out. But anyways, folks, but yeah, so right now you guys can see in the top left, where the storm's at right now. Currently, we are Category 2, very big Category 2 storm here overall. We are currently, clocking in at 110 mile per hour sustained winds with higher gusts, of course, here. According to this, we have some gusts. It doesn't really show how big our gusts are until the future cast, but we're at least gusting up to 130 or so. But yeah, so currently clocking in at 110 miles an hour sustained, just shy of a Cat 3, upper level Category 2. Pressure is down quite a bit to 941 millibars, and it is moving to the north at 14 miles per hour here. So, system is expected to strengthen a little bit, once again by tomorrow morning here, 2 a.m. tomorrow. Hurricane Center does have this system becoming a Category 3 again, sustained winds of 115, gusting up to 140 or so. And then, of course, it'll still be a Category 3 by tomorrow afternoon. Not much really improvement, not much strengthening going on. And then basically from there on out, we're going to start weakening as the system starts to encounter some more wind shear from the jet stream rolling across the north, kind of pushing the system further east, as well as, it's going to start really infiltrating the system with a lot of dry air. And then eventually it's going to run into cooler waters. So it's pretty much doomed. The system is pretty much doomed for all hazards, all things that act against the tropical system, cool waters, dry air, and wind shear. Those are all getting ready to be a big concern for the storm, and which is going to basically rip apart the storm to shreds, essentially. Deborah says, thank you for all you do, Andrew. Much appreciated. Everyone stay safe. Good night. You too, Deborah. I mean, you're very welcome. Glad to help out, my friend. Greatly appreciated. But yeah, so that's that. Let's take a minute to hop over to EPAC, though. We've got a new area here in the Eastern Pacific. Overall, 20% chance of formation in the next 7 days, and throughout the next 48 hours, we have a 0% chance. So we're not really expecting a whole lot to occur in the next 48 hours. But yeah, I just want to mention that here. Hurricane Center, we do actually have an area over here in the EPAC. From what I remember, at least from what I've been looking at, I don't think the EPAC has been very active lately. For a little bit of time, though, Eastern Pacific was very active, and it's kind of weird because it seemed like the Eastern Pacific was active, then it died down, then the Atlantic got active, and then I wouldn't say it's dying down, but now we're starting to see this pick back up again. Let's see here. Kind of reminds me of Hurricane Jose in 2017. You mean 2017? Holy cow. I was going to say, are you from the future or something? Goodness. 2917, that's like a little bit less than 900 years away. It's crazy. What's up, Mark? Good to see ya. Thanks for the likes, fam. Yeah, I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you for the support. Y'all are amazing. But yeah, once again, looking at the MEDARs here, at current wind speed, you can see, not a whole lot of winds are really being felt right now. I mean, it's a little gusty, but, just winds no greater than 25 miles an hour. We have a couple of those gusting up to like 22, as you can see, like that one down here. A few gusts up in the 20s here, but still the winds are subtropical storm force. But once we work our way into, tomorrow morning, we're going to really start to feel that winds really starting to pick up out there. Yeah, especially for the, the far eastern stretch of North Carolina, as well as like southeastern Virginia. That's where we're going to really feel out. Remember, this is mostly going to be coastal impacts, y'all. This is not going to be so much of deep inland impacts. So that's something important to remember, is that the effects are mostly going to be on the coastal areas here. Just given that the system is riding right next to the coast here overall. So we'll definitely watch it. But yeah, I mean, once again, we're just going to have that jet really carry the system away here. Miss, I don't know what you mean by all that. But yeah, so once again, the system's just going to get carried away by those winds, by that jet stream up there, which will be good. Once again, it'll really start to get infiltrated with dry air at that point in time, too. It looks like the late 21st, so late tomorrow night, looks like it'll really start picking up picking up a lot of dry air. That'll really start to weaken that system here. Here, let's see if we have any emissions on it. We actually do. Look at this. Got a mission going on right now. We apparently had a drop zone in the core of 941 millibars. Hasn't really changed. Let's see here. 75 knots. Dude, that wind field's massive. I mean, that's pretty crazy. You know it's a pretty big storm whenever that wind field, the further that they fly away from the core, the fact that the wind field still stays this strong. Typical systems you'd see like, given smaller systems here, you would see that the system really drop in pressure as they go through wind speed and pressure as they go through the core, and then quickly drops afterwards. But the fact that it's still like really just continuing to be pretty strong, it just really shows you that wind field, how it's massive. System is absolutely huge. Your phone messed up. I meant to say, what's the likelihood of the storm having tornadic activity? Not expected, because, once again, like I mentioned earlier here, is that the right-hand side of the storm is where the tornadic activity is. That's where the best mixing ratios are. For tornadic activity, it's on the right-hand side. The left-hand side, not really supportive of any tornadic activity. So, yeah, we're not gonna really see any tornadic threat for this. No, so we're good. There is no tornado threat. Now, if the system was to deeply go inland, which it's not, then there would be a tornado threat, given that right-hand side of the storm would indeed go inland, but it's not expected to. The system's just going to kind of pull further northeast here. But yeah, no tornado threat. So we're good with that. No, that's something we don't kind of worry about with this guy. So, it's really only that right-hand side that we got to look out for that. Now, Bermuda, on the other hand, they're still going to be far away from the main impacts. The way that models have been suggesting, it's kind of unsure right now if the system is going to, allow for tropical storm force conditions to occur out here, which, it doesn't really seem like, super likely at this point. But we'll have to see. I mean, they still do have that tropical storm watch. It has not been upgraded yet, though. Hopping back to the North Atlantic here. Let's see. Can I pick a different region? Let's do. Is there a West Atlantic view? I guess I don't think there is. There is an Eastern U.S. view we can look at. Okay, I think that'll probably be the best view to look at. So yeah, there's Bermuda right there. Pulling up our lower level winds here, 10-meter winds. So, you can see though, those impacts along the eastern side of North Carolina. And then out there in Bermuda, as we progress our way down in time, you can see that the wind field does include quite a bit of strong winds out there as well. This is a 30-knot wind barb, which would be subtropical storm, barely. 35 greater, that's where you start to get in, sustained. That's where we get in the tropical storm force. But it'll be close. It'll be basically, kind of low-end upper end, pretty much non-tropical storm force to low-end tropical storm force there. Let's see here. Question, what's the next storm looking like in the Atlantic? I know all eyes are on Erin at the moment. So, yeah, we talked about those a few times tonight. We do have a decent shot at development here of at least a depression. The storm right now, as you can see right here, it's just a big cluster of thunderstorms. It isn't really doing much. It hasn't even really rotated too much lately. It's doing pretty poorly. But as the system does go into this environment here, it does have potential at developing into something. Models are very all over the place still on that system. The GFS wants a hurricane out of it, and literally all the other models don't even really suggest even a tropical storm. Some maybe a depression. I personally think we can't immediately assume this is going to be a hurricane. From the guidance we have right now, I don't think so. The most out of this that we'll probably see is maybe just a short-lived tropical short-lived tropical depression, in which more than likely the system will probably just kind of remain across the central Atlantic. Probably wouldn't really do a whole lot. This guy over here, this one's in better shape, like I've mentioned here. It is. You can see some circulation going on. We do have some pretty good convection. It's very disorganized still. System's going to keep on going west, but it's about to run into some drier air, which is going to really allow for the system to just kind of fizzle out. So if it's wanting to do anything, it better do it soon. Probability of development here is 40% in the next 2 days, so it's already topped out overall and topped out in the next 2 days. If it's going to do anything, it's got to do it soon. But to be honest, my hopes aren't super high for this system doing much. I mean, even if it did develop into a short tropical depression, it would almost instantly be, kind of ripped apart by that dry air. So, this system, not even slightly concerned about. This one here, I'm really not concerned about it either, given lack of guidance with it and, all that. But we'll watch it. I mean, it's not something to ignore, but we'll keep an eye on it. But, yeah, obviously the main concern right now is Erin, and that's what really needs talked about the most. Hopefully that helps. Hopefully that does help. But anyways, yeah, y'all, if you have any questions, let me know. Throw it down in the chat. We'll be more than happy to help y'all. And once again, if you're new to the channel, y'all, consider leaving a like, hitting that subscribe button. It'd be greatly, greatly appreciated. But yeah, we'll consider doing some night coverage tonight on the system here. We'll have to monitor it tonight because tonight's kind of where some of the heaviest of the impacts are going to be at. With the storm surge and all that fun stuff. The worst of it's going to be felt here for. Basically here tonight, as you can see. That's at its closest point here. This is 8 a.m. tomorrow. You can see that it's, just offshore here. Thankfully, the hurricane force winds are going to be pretty far away from land here, which is definitely good. But anyways, that's that, y'all. Probably going to roll off here. If y'all have any questions, feel free to throw them down in the chat before we go. But yeah, I mean, that's really about all we can talk about right now. Once again, the GFS, what that other system does have, it wants a hurricane, but this is one model. Literally no other model supports this right now, so I'm not worried about it. Like, looking at Euro here, you can see Euro just has it right here, just maybe a depression. Not a whole lot. CMC model, on the other hand, let's see, doesn't even really support that system at all. Then you got Icon here. Yeah, Icon supports it, but just nothing more than maybe a depression. So that's the one we should monitor, but it's not really a super big concern as of right now. But anyways, what is the ancient Chinese secret? I don't know. I guess no one knows. But anyways, all right, everybody. Well, thank you all for joining. I appreciate it. But yeah, we'll definitely try to go live again tonight. No promises, but we'll think about doing some coverage tonight here for you guys as the storm does kind of approach and does get closer to some of these regions. Chris says slow season so far. Yeah, but we're still climbing the ladder of activity. A lot of it's still ahead of us here, so we're about 20-something days away from the peak of hurricane season, so we still got plenty of time for stuff to happen. And usually when stuff really starts happening, that's usually when it really kicks off. So we'll just have to monitor it. But I agree, yeah, it has had a little bit of a slower start to it, that's for sure. But you know what? I'm okay with that. The less hurricanes, the better. They're very powerful systems, and they cause a lot of problems. So I'm happy with it. Not getting much. Don't get me wrong, I love a good storm, but it's also good to not have these all over the place. But all right, everybody. Well, thank you all for joining. Appreciate it. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your night. Thank you all for joining here. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Leave a like on your way out. Greatly appreciated. But all right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for joining. We'll catch you all later on, and y'all have a great night. All right, everybody. Thank you all for joining. See you guys in the next one. Peace out, my friends. See ya later on.